It's great to be with you all today. And it's a special day here at Unity of Bremerton. Do you know why? Have you heard the sounds of the little one in the room? Charlie's here. Charlie with her family, Jason and Becky and Jonah, and this is Joy's family, are here, and we're going to welcome them here with us. And also we're going to do a baptism of Charlie. And I was thinking about it. One of the reasons, there are many reasons, but one of the reasons I think that we just love babies, and we love all forms of new life. Kittens and puppies and baby birds and baby anything. They're so beautiful. And you know what another reason is? It feels to me is because they still have the other side all over them. They still have spirit from whence we come all over them. And we're really attracted to that. Do you realize that? Why? Because it's who we are. And it hasn't been pushed or pulled or argued or denied or any of that yet. It's all just pure love and pure light. And we're just attracted like a moth to a flame because it's who we really are. It's the truth of us. So we are grateful that you're here with us today and that we get to have this wonderful opportunity to celebrate life, to celebrate your beautiful daughter's life, and to be reminded through this experience of who we all are. And we can all choose, if we want to, we can all choose to be re-engaged, reborn, recommitted to the truth of us as God informed today. As Charlie takes that step, as her parents bring her forth to take that step, to just be reminded, because in Unity, we don't do any dunking or any submerging or any sprinkling or any of that. We don't do that here. For us, what it's about is an opportunity to be reminded who we really are as God informed, as God in expression. So we can all do that here today collectively. I just brought one rose, but you guys don't mind. Okay. When I was thinking about what I might talk about today, since we are having this wonderful baptism, what came to me right away was, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." And the first thing I thought of was meek. Meek, in our world, meek sounds like kind of a puny word, doesn't it? Meek. Kind of this kind of a word, don't you think? Isn't that sort of the way we use meek in this world? It's like meek is kind of like we hold back, like we might be kind of timid, like another word for it might be timid. But the original meaning of the word meek is completely open without fear. Gentle, innocent, no need to protect or defend because we understand who we really are. And in fact, Marilyn, what you were reading with the Daily Word was just perfect. It's exactly like the declaration of the meek is in sense, because we understand there's nothing to fear. Because we understand that ultimately we're all one. We're all here for the same reason, and we're all going the same direction. Now we can look around in our world and go, I don't know if the memo's out on that. Right? But that's what we're all about in consciousness, is getting clear on that ourselves and then allowing that to move forth into the world so it becomes part of the collective. I'm not talking about proselytizing. I'm talking about being who you really are, because when you let your light shine, people see it and people feel it and they're drawn. Questions or comments about that? we are living in a world where it feels like it's all about juggling the power. Who's in control? Who's got the most of it? Who's got the most weapons? Who has the most influence? Who's got it? The superpowers, right? And when Jesus said, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth," he was talking about something far beyond that kind of power. He was talking about the awareness that the real power is our understanding of what real power is. That there's no need to try to grab or grasp or try to have control over. That which has the need to have control over is something that is operating from fear. Fear that they're going to lose something. Fear that they're not going to have something, that somebody else is going to have something over them. The idea that I'll get you first before you can get me. But the awareness that we are offered in the statement, the meek, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth, is the awareness that the real power is letting go. It's not about grasping. It's about letting go, because we understand in the letting go that we're open to and receptive to the power of the moment, which is love, which is life, which is breath, which then allows us to have peace. We don't need to build walls, fences, barricades, because we understand that there's nothing to protect against. And so you may say to me, well, Joanna, it's a scary world. You mean you can't walk around? There's stuff going on. You got to be, it's scary out there. And what it feels to me like the opportunity is, that the lesson is that as we more and more grow in the truth of that the power is in the letting go, the power is the understanding that there truly is nothing to fear, that there truly is nothing to fear, that we relax into that. And as we do that, it's less and less likely that we could possibly draw something to us that would harm us. Does that make sense? Does that ring true for you? Mm-hmm. I can't remember if I've shared this with you. I may have. If I have, I'm repeating it. Back, has it been 4 years now, or 4 years or 5, since the Sandy Hook shootings when the children were shot at the school? The little ones. And I remember when I first heard of it, the idea of it, I just couldn't even hold it. I just couldn't even, it was like, oh my God, what has to happen for us to do things differently? If it isn't this, what? And that question still remains. But at that time, when that occurred, I was in prayer. And I went into meditation, and I was in a deep place inside myself, and I was asking, how does this happen? And the smaller part of me then went to the place of, and how can you let this happen? How can you let this happen? How does this happen? What kind of God is this? Excuse me. And what I heard was, my child, do you think that suffering is present here where I am? Do you think that's happening? Do you think those children suffered? Well, yeah, it looks like they did. No. That stuff, that suffering, that hurting, that violence, that whatever, happens on this side, on planet Earth. When a soul is about to make its transition, it's lifted. It doesn't experience any of that. That doesn't exist. Do you get that? And I'm going, you mean those children didn't suffer? No. No. Now, don't hear me. It's not that's okay then. Not saying that, because the opportunity every time something like this happens is for us to do things differently. Do you get that? That's the task. That's it. But the life itself is lifted up. And I thought, wow, I wonder if their parents know this. I would want to know this. And so I made some communications to kind of try to help that. Because I never knew that before. And you sit with that and see if that feels true to you. I promise you, you'll get to the place where it does. Because just like our dear sweet Charlie, how she's come to us from the other side, from where this stuff doesn't exist. It's so beautiful and attractive because it's who we really are. Because this little one has not had the time to get mired down in our sense of that we're not okay, that we're not enough, that life is hard, that you have to suffer, all this kind of, these beliefs that we carry collectively. And so we get mired down in the world, don't we? And that's what's so important about Unity of Bremerton and spiritual communities like this, because we have the opportunity here to be reminded, oh yeah, that's right, that's who I am, because it's not easy to remember that often in our world, is it? So when I had this awareness, we don't suffer, the suffering doesn't go with us in the experience of whatever's happening. No, my child. It's on this side, this earth side, that you believe that you can be harmed. That you believe that there's something to fear. And therefore you experience it. Questions or comments about that? Yes.
It brings to mind what Reverend Michael would always say, is that pain is a given, but suffering is optional.
Right. Right. And that can take you a long time to get to understand that. Because none of us are asking for suffering usually. There's sometimes in our belief structures that some people believe we deserve to suffer. I grew up in a religious tradition that said that suffering is the way God knows that you love him. See, even Charlie doesn't like that one. But it's a central part of the belief system. But that isn't the truth of us. And so when I heard this about the children, that they're just lifted right up. There's no. The physical body has its experience, but the child isn't there anymore. The person isn't there anymore. They've gone they're leaving. They're gone. They're back up into from whence they came. And so it's kind of, I don't know about you, but for me it was like a huge leap to go, oh, really? Now this can feel like, life, I didn't even know I was going to talk about this today. That's not on here. It can feel like it's kind of a giant leap. But just sit with it. Don't believe me. Don't let anyone tell you your truth. You sit with it and let it sit with you for a while and see how it feels. And that does not in any way excuse anybody's behavior or anything that's happening. Not saying that. Not saying that it's okay. What I am saying is that these things that occur exist as an opportunity for us to make a different choice. every one of these dear ones, like the ones on Friday and the ones before that and the ones before that, and undoubtedly the ones next week and the week after that, until we change what we do, are gifting us with the opportunity to do it differently, whatever that is. And I'm not standing up here trying to tell you what it is. That's not my place. All I'm talking about, and my task, is reminding us that we do have the choice. It's our responsibility to choose. To look at the consequences of our choices and look and say, is that who I am? Is that what I want? Is this okay with me? If it is, fine. If it's not, then maybe there's something different that needs to be done. Questions or comments about that? Jesus said, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." Do you get that statement? Does that mean that we all need to kind of walk around and suck our thumbs and go goo goo gaga? Is that what that means? Well, I don't think so. I think what it feels like to me, and you listen to this on your heart, when Jesus said, be like the children, again, like this beautiful being who has not been jaded by sense of negativity, that they're not okay, that they aren't God in form, that they have the innocence of life, that they truly believe that all things are possible. And isn't it true with our children? Don't you love to watch children in any given moment experiencing life? Everything is new. Everything is a new possibility. Everything is a new beginning. They trust the process. And they do that. That's why parents have to be careful with little children, because little children have no fear. They've had no experience to tell them that there's something to fear. Like sticking their finger in the hot water or on the stove or something. They haven't had that yet, so there's nothing that's holding them back. And that's what Jesus is talking about, is having that joy, that joie de vivre, that joy of life, that the belief that all things are possible. That's the way to heaven, or spirit, or the other side, or divine presence, or whatever you name it, whatever you call it. When Jesus said that, what he was saying is, if you aren't like if you don't have that, you can't make it into your true peace. Because you're being governed by, you're being ruled by your sense of the negative. The old beliefs that say to you, well, I never win anything. It never works for me. Now, I know none of you have any beliefs like that, right? That's the thing, is that joy of life. And you've heard me tell this. I've done workshops with all of you around this about the idea of the inner child. The inner child is the place where our spontaneity lives. Our creativity, our joy, our spiritual self. They're all in the same, they all live in the same wonderful place inside of us. And it's very easy after we've been in the world for a while and we've had some experiences that caused us to get burned or to get left or to get lost or to feel grief or whatever, to feel like life is a hard place. Earth is not fun. Do you have one of those t-shirts that says, getting old is not for sissies? the whole idea of it's so easy to get jaded, to get shut down by the negativity, isn't it? To not expect anything different. And what Jesus is telling us there is that we have to open up to our joy, our spontaneity, our creativity, if we want things to change, to be different. I have to share this with you. I'm not sure if this coincides, but last night I was in Seattle at I support. Are any of you familiar with the Chimp Sanctuary Northwest in Clay Elum? Do any of you know about them? The 7 chimps that have been rescued from research labs? Well, I just adore them. And I adore the people who have created sanctuary for them. And it has been in the last few years that it's become illegal to use chimps for research, which is a really good thing. And the thing is, though, is that they had over 1,000 chimps that were in research labs around the country who now needed a place to be because they're not being used for research anymore. So what's happened is that they are stored in 5x10 cages in basements waiting for a place to go. And there are still over 800 of them that are waiting. But there are places like Chimp Haven in Louisiana, and there's the chimp place in Fort Pierce, Florida. And we have a small one here in Clay Elum that has 7 chimps. And they've been there now for 10 years. And last night at the dinner that was celebrating that 10 years, they showed a video of when they first came out here to the sanctuary. And they had been in these 5x10 cages for 3 years. Hadn't seen the light of day for 3 years. And that was 3 years after they'd been in research for 2-3 decades. Being used as research for hepatitis. And they also used the females for breeding so they could have more chimps to do research on. So these 7 chimps were in bad shape. So they brought them out to the sanctuary that was just being built. And these people were not, they just knew they had to do this. And so it took them a while to pull this all together. And after it was 2 years, the chimps arrived, and it was 2 years before they could go outside. And the folks, they have this 2-acre piece of land. It's called Young's Hill, and it's where the chimps can go outside and run around, and they have these like things they can climb on and jump on and sit up high and look out at everything and just be. Well, you can imagine after being in 5x10 cages for years and then being in this sanctuary, even just getting to know each other and getting to be together in a room for 2 years, that after 2 years they decided it was time for them to get to go outside. So, and you can see this video online. They have it on their website. I highly recommend it. They have a video of when they opened the gate and the chimps started to go outside for the first time, to feel grass on their feet, to get to just breathe the air and not have metal between them and the air. So they opened the gate, and the 7 of them start very closely to go out, and you know what the first thing they did was? They hugged each other. They hugged each other. That was the first thing they did. So even after being imprisoned all that time and abused all that time and kept shut in all that time, life itself, when it was freed, the first thing it did was recognize each other and connect with each other and be in community with each other. Because they knew. They had a childlike wonder. And the first thing they did was connect with each other. Just like this little one hugs and holds and grabs your finger Did she do that on like the first day?
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. There's this sense, and that's what Jesus is talking about, is a child. Life, innocence, knows about its connectedness with all other life. I guess that does kind of fit, doesn't it? Okay. And that doesn't mean that there aren't children who have issues and problems and concerns and stuff like that. But we have the child inside of us, the opportunity that we have is to parent that child. Because nobody else can. And that child is still living with a set of beliefs that it had when you were a child. And it still operates from there. So if you had problems in growing up, or you had issues with abuse or neglect or whatever it was, that child may still be living with those beliefs that got developed at that time. And they stay in there until we help them change them. Do you understand that? Do you get that? Read the research. I'm not making this up. This is the truth of it. And the only person who can change that in this child in you is you. Are you parenting your child? See, Becky and Jason they've got this brand new gorgeous baby who makes demands on them, and she lets them know what she needs, I'm pretty sure. But the child inside of us has learned that it's not going to be heard, most likely. So it's kind of shut down. But the inner child lives at the same level as our autonomic system. Our autonomic system and our subconscious, the areas in us that control our what? Our breathing, our circulation, the pressures in our bodies, whether that's blood pressure or eye pressure. Do you get that? And so if that child has been shut down, what is it going to affect? Is it going to go away silently? No. So if you have any issues in your body, are you having issues that have to do with breathing, circulation, pressures, indigestion, things like that, digestive system? Do you get what I'm saying? Most of the stuff that we deal with have to do with those systems. So has the child gone away? No, and isn't supposed to. Why? As Jesus said, it's because the child is the part that's going to get you to grow, to get to who you truly are, to get you home. Does that make sense? Anyone?
Absolutely.
Yeah? Does that make sense? You're on it. Yeah. And so what we learn to do is go to the doctor and get drugs and, all that. But what I'm going to suggest to you is there's more we can do. And that is getting in touch with that place of us where the child lives. Because I promise you, in many ways, they're in charge with what's happening in us. And what they need is our love and our attention. And letting them know that they're not living in the same environment they were living when you were 5 or 7 or however old. That it's different now. That you're going to take care of them. That there's nothing to fear. And if you would be willing to do this work, and we can do it. We haven't done an inner child workshop for a while. We could do one. We've done them. We could do one. I'd be happy to do it. I think we did like a series of 3, didn't we? 3 Sundays or something? Well, we'll talk to Cindy. We'll see about doing that. There's ways that you can connect with this being in you, this child in you, that never grows up. It isn't supposed to grow up. Would you want your spontaneity and your joy to grow up? Ooh. No. God changed the world. Yeah. There's much left for us to do here, my friends. We look at our crazy world and think, I don't get it, and I don't know what I can do about it. And the truth is, there's a whole lot we can do. There's a whole lot of healing that we can accomplish within ourselves that's going to add to the collective healing. Why? Because we're all one. And that's the task for you and me. And this is really one of the ways. It's not the only way, but it's one of the important ways to do it. So let's take a moment now and get comfortable in our chairs. And let's do a little bit of breathing. Remember, our only task always in any moment of now is breathing and allowing. Breathing and allowing. Because our joy, our truth, God, divine essence, universal source, whatever you name that essence of life, that is the name. It's always present, but it never intrudes. It loves us so much that it allows us to choose our way home. And it takes as long as it takes. There are no limitations. Isn't that the most amazing love? Come to me, dear one, as you can, as you are ready. I'm here whenever you are ready and willing, and say yes. I will not come over on top of you. You must choose me. Such love. And so our task is to breathe and allow. Breathe and open our hearts, making room for this love. Opening those doors and windows. Inviting it in, inviting it forth. Filling us to overflowing. And as you allow, if you're aware of a place in you that feels particularly tense, particularly argumentative, or in other words, yeah, but, send this love right there. Maybe your child comes forth in this moment since we've given it some attention this morning. Give him or her a hug. Say, I'm here for you. And they don't need much time. They're children. They don't have a large attention span. 5 minutes is good. Or maybe it's the inner critic who's really going, this is silly. So you could give that one a hug too and say, okay, that's enough now. I am God in form, and I know it. Cease trying to tell me otherwise. Cease. And maybe there's a circumstance in your life that's tugging on you, that you don't have it doesn't feel like you have the answer for it yet. Don't see the way to go. Doesn't seem to be resolved, and it's tugging. Send your love, your light right there. For that love and that light can bring the new possibility, the solution you hadn't thought of, the person, place, or thing that will make a difference. And then there may be those who you know right now who could use this reminder of who they truly are and what they're truly made of. That whatever's going on in their life, it's just not, it's making it really hard to remember. If you feel comfortable, feel free to say their names out loud right now so we can hold them and send love and light with you.
Candy corn.
For our spiritual community, for our community at large, for our country, for our planet, for all forms of life, that in this moment of now, as we send love and light, all forms of light are lifted up. And for the opportunity to be reminded of the truth of us in this moment of now. And as we are gifted with the opportunity to bless Charlie this morning, we are grateful, and so it is. Amen. So if you feel ready, open your eyes and take a deep breath.
Oops, okay. Time to wake up. When I'm ready.
In unity, we do not make use of water in baptism, as did John of old, but prefer instead to follow the example of Jesus, whose form of baptism John foretold. Someone more powerful is going to come. I baptize you with water, but he will baptize you with the Holy Spirit. The account of Jesus' baptism of his disciples is found in the 20th chapter of the Gospel according to John. It was late that Sunday evening, and the disciples were gathered together behind locked doors because they were afraid of the Jewish authorities. Can you just picture that? Jesus is gone, been crucified and gone. There's a rumor that somebody stole his body. They don't know where he is. And so the disciples are locked away in this room so the authorities don't get them. And then all of a sudden, Jesus comes walking in. Jesus came in and stood among them. Peace be with you, he said. After saying this, he showed them his hands and his side. The disciples were filled with joy at seeing their beloved friend and teacher. Jesus said to them again, peace be with you. As the Father sent me, so I send you. Then he breathed on them and said, receive the Holy Spirit. And for me, it's even a coming forth because it's something that we always had. It's the awareness, the allowance that is what gives it power, what gives it life inside of us, right? So doesn't this feel like the perfect moment to bless this new life that's come into our being? Do you want to? She's falling asleep now. Isn't she beautiful? Wow. You have brought here this little one. You have brought here this little one, remembering that before she is yours, she is a child of God, divine essence. It is your privilege to love her, raise her, guide her. Guard well this trust. People were bringing little children to Jesus for him to place his hands on them, but the disciples rebuked them. Get those kids out of here. When Jesus saw this, he was indignant. He said to them, let the little children come to me. Sweetie, is she hungry or tired? Sweet girl. Sweet girl. Truly I tell you, anyone who will not receive the kingdom of God like a little child will never enter it. And now, realizing the love of God toward the children, let us pray. Almighty God, divine beloved, we give thanks that your love is ever present and that you remember little children. Increase in us our awareness of your love and of a childlike spirit of faith and trust. And it may be that we'll go past this. The rest, some of you want to? This child comes to you endowed with infinite possibilities of good. She comes to teach you as well as to learn from you. Today you seek God's gracious approval of the trust placed in you and of your acceptance of it. And then Becky had asked us to read the Psalm 46, but I think maybe we're going to skip that. And it's beautiful, and I want you to be aware of it. And I'm pretty sure you are aware of it because it's kind of famous. And it's kind of famous in unity because this is where the line, be still and know that I am God, comes from. Be still and know that I am God. Dear ones, as you say aloud the name of this child, may your words be a prayer for wisdom and guidance. What have you named this child?
Charlotte Marion Ensminger.
Charlotte Marion Ensminger.
Oh.
Charlotte Marion Ensminger, I baptize you in the name of the Father, which is all divine essence, all life, and the Son, and she's smiling, which is the divine expression that we all are, and the Holy Spirit, which is the connectedness of all of it. Yes. And you are it, she says, and I've had enough of this. And so the one other thing that we want to accomplish is there are several people in this beautiful family's life who they want to thank for all that they're bringing, presence, love, and they're influencing them and as well as Charlotte and Jonah. And we'd especially like to thank grandparents Eddie and Gladys Martins, Jack Corbett, Dave and Anna Jaffe, Jake and Vester Ensminger, Maria and Jean Semelko, Eleanor and Bruce Clark, for who they are and for what they have brought to Charlotte's life and her family's life. And so I'm going to invite you all now to stand. Rub your hands together until you feel that energy moving. And I'm going to ask you to repeat after me. Charlotte?
Charlotte.
We bless you.
We bless you.
We love you.
We love you.
And we behold the Christ in you.
We behold the Christ in you.
And we are here for you.
And we are here for you.
And so it is.
So it is.
Thank you. You can be seated. Blessings.